Hello, this is Andrew with Missing Remote, and this is a SRAM 1136 cassette. I've been thinking about playing around with this for two reasons. One, I've tried an 1134 from Shimano in the past, and while it does provide the 1-to-1 ratio, because I have a compact chain set up front, I'm not really happy with the shifting performance of the 1134, and I think that it might come down to, if I get my thumb unstuck here, this thing. The 1134 is a cassette that can run on a 10 or 11 speed free hub. So you can, without this, you would run it on a 10 speed free hub. With it, you run it with an 11 speed free hub. And I think that, or I don't know, but that's the only thing I can think of why the shifting performance on the 1134 is not as good as the shifting performance on an 1132. And so I'm always looking for other ways to get mechanical advantage. And I guess it's worth digressing briefly. Some people think of, generous cassettes as a cheat or an unmanly thing to do. Personally, I view them as an object that provides mechanical advantage, much like aero handlebars or an aero bike provides mechanical advantage. So just like I would put aero handlebars on my bike, I would play around with getting better mechanical gearing. So 1136, because I'm not keen on the 1134 shifting. But also, it would be great if I could get the 1-to-1 ratio with a 5236, because I live in Illinois, and Illinois is a very flat place. I run a compact chain set here because I like to climb. But if I could run a mid-compact 5236 and still get that 1-to-1 ratio, that would be awesome. So the goal here is to test out the 1136 with my medium cage Ultegra rear derailleur and see if it works. And I expect that it will, but who knows, right? So before putting it on the bike, we have to figure out how much it weighs. So let's go ahead and get that on here, and I expect it's going to be hefty. I have 366.4, and then for reference, let's get the 1134. So that's 339.1. And then, just for giggles, the 1132, which is 280.5. So obviously, there is a pretty massive weight penalty from going from 1132 to 1134 to 1136, assuming the 1136 works. I haven't ridden this yet, but I have ridden both of these, and the 1132 shifting performance is very, very good, and it works well in most situations. But when the grade goes really steep, it's very nice to have the extra gear than that 1-to-1 ratio. So put this on the bike, test it out, and we'll report back. So the test, of course, on whether or not this cassette will work with the medium cage Ultegra derailleur here is, can it accommodate the amount of chain that you need in order to make it work? And so using the method that Park Tool recommends with how you size a chain, So this chain is my 1134 chain, and we can see here, if I line up the quick link with this rivet, there's 2 rivets below it. So I would actually cut the chain the same size for the 1134 as I would for the 1136. So given that, it's highly unlikely that this wouldn't work because it's the same chain, as long as the B screw, which since this bike can use SRAM and Shimano derailleurs, there's almost no reason at all why this wouldn't work. So I'm going to get the chain on there, mess with it on the work stand just to make sure that it shifts properly, and then go give it a ride. So it looks like the indexing is slightly off, so I'll have to play with that to get it perfect. That's not entirely unexpected when you shift between cassettes, but it does mean that there's a slight sizing difference between this SRAM cassette and the Shimano cassettes that I've been using on here. So obviously if you use Shimano Di2, there isn't going to be a cassette profile in the Garmin for the 1136 because Shimano doesn't sell an 1136 cassette. Fortunately, there is an easy way to sort out the gearing on here. You just go into the sensor details and you change the gears. And so that's all there is to it. Figured this is as good a time as any to celebrate the beauty of an 1136 cassette. Here I am, happily spinning away on the 32 at 9%, and I know that I got another gear left, which, when it gets really steep, is really going to come in handy. Sorry for the wind noise up here. This is the top of the Sunshine Canyon climb, and this is testing out the 1136. This is why I got it, because I knew it was going to come up here and do this. And it's a pretty brutal climb with about 15 or 16% grades at some points, and it was really nice to have that extra less than 1-to-1, whatever that is, gearing for those places, because I'm really feeling the third day of riding out here in Boulder. So I would recommend it for anybody who likes to climb and doesn't necessarily have the legs to back it up. Alright, final thoughts time. With using a SRAM 1136 cassette with a Shimano Ultegra R8000, or in this case R8050 Di2 medium cage rear derailleur, bottom line is that it works. It actually uses the same chain as I was using with the 1134. I didn't have to add any links. So there's almost no risk that the chain is going to be too long for the derailleur to handle. Obviously this is not a supported configuration, so do it at your own risk. But I didn't have any problems with it. I don't expect that you will either. It just works. And honestly, it works better than the 1134. No wonky shifting. I'm not really sure why I had that problem with the 1134. I suspect it's because it uses a spacer, but it could just be that I'm more anal than the average person. I don't know. The gearing is fantastic. It really does enable you to get out there as a flatlander, to go out to the mountains and do some climbing. And if you don't have the climbing legs, or you don't have the climbing lungs because of the elevation, it's brilliant for that. And the 1 to 0.94 gearing is fantastic. I actually like the gearing so much that I'm not confident that I'm going to go with the original plan to change the front chain rings for a 5236, because it was just so nice to be able to spin up those steep grades. And since it works so well, I don't know that I'd really want to change that. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please like it, subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. I will get to them as soon as I can. Cheers.